my fellow wizards. If you're anything like me, you love hoarding in video games, and Wiz is no exception. I've got the pet hoarding house, the furniture hoarding house, another furniture hoarding house, you know, as one does. And I admit I may have a problem, but you know what? Instead of complaining about constantly running out of space or, you know, going to therapy, the answer is clearly to just get more storage for your stuff. So today I'm here to inform you, my fellow hoarders, how to get a bunch more storage space for free so you never have to throw out a single thing ever again.
Some may call this junk. Me, I call them treasures.
Now, just to cover your options, there are some elixirs you can buy from the crown shop for 2,500 crowns each that can permanently expand either your backpack or bank for each individual wizard by 50. You can expand your backpack up to 3 times for an extra 150 spaces or your bank 2 times for an extra 100 spaces. There's also bricabrac elixirs for 995 crowns each that can expand your housing item limit by 50 up to a 400 maximum for each area. Note that these elixirs only apply to the wizard they are used on and are not account-wide, so be careful which wizard you use them on. And I admit, these can be really handy, and especially if there's an elixir sale, it may be worth splurging on a few of these, but if you don't want to spend any real money, thankfully there are some great alternative options for you. So let's dive in. First, let's cover the gear, seed, and jewel vaults, which can all be gotten for free. These are all also in the crown shop for 1,995 crowns each, but thankfully you don't have to buy any of them, assuming you don't mind a little crafting. Each of the recipes for these vaults can be bought for gold instead from Toshio and Mushu under the Furniture tab in the Recipes section. You will also need the Initiate Crafter badge to craft them, which means you need to have completed the crafting quest from Eudora Tangletree in Old Town, William in the Oasis, and Felicia Worthington near Digmore Station. Thankfully, these quests are fairly easy and quick to complete, so you shouldn't have too much trouble. Once you have your Initiate Crafter badge, you can simply purchase the recipes you want from Toshio and craft the vaults using a housing crafting station, which can be bought easily from Albert Quickhammer in the furniture shop in the shopping district of Wizard City, or conveniently from Zilan, who is inside the Mushu furniture shop right near Toshio. Place the housing crafting station in any of your houses and you can craft the vaults once you have all the ingredients. Note that there's a limit of 1 of each type of vault per area, so you can't, for instance, place 2 seed vaults inside your house, but you can place 1 gear vault inside and 1 outside, or a gear, seed, and jewel vault inside and then the same 3 outside. This works per house, so if you have multiple homes and your dorm, you can easily get a ton of extra storage space this way. One extra added tip is that in order to access your vaults, you will need to open the Furniture tab and then click on the vault you want to use in order to open it. It does not open normally by just walking up to it and hitting X like other interactable items. So before I get a bunch of wizard rage comments saying the vaults are broken, I just wanted to give you a heads up. Once you open the vault, you can then transfer whatever you want from your backpack to the vault and vice versa, depending on the type of vault. Okay, now the basics are covered, let's break down all the pieces you'll need to craft each vault and where to get them. Starting with the gear vault, you'll need a reinforced crate, 30 stone blocks, 20 sandstones, 10 mistwood, 25 flawless sapphires, 25 reshuffled treasure cards, and 10 fairy treasure cards. The reinforced crate can be bought from Albert Quickhammer in the Wizard City furniture shop mentioned earlier. Stone block can be bought at the bazaar or harvested easily from early worlds like Krokotopia and Marleybone. Sandstone is a rare harvest from picking up stone blocks, so you may get some while farming for those, but you can also find them at the bazaar and you can transmute them using 10 stone blocks each from a transmutation recipe that you can buy at the earliest from Avery Templeton in Celestia. Mistwood is also often found at the bazaar or gathered easily in early worlds like Wizard City, Grizzleheim, and Mushu. The flawless sapphires can be bought from Yuji Hamada, who is conveniently standing right next to Toshio, and both the reshuffle and fairy TCs can be bought from Harold Argleston in the Wizard City library. You can then craft your gear vault and place it inside or outside your home to then get 100 extra storage spaces per vault. The gear vault stores hats, robes, boots, wands, athames, amulets, and rings, but for some weird reason, no decks. So sorry to you deck hoarders out there, but apparently there's no room in these gear vaults for your collection, so those are just gonna have to keep taking up space in your backpack and bank. Also note that unfortunately the gear vault is a no trade item, so you cannot trade it between wizards via the shared bank, which is kind of a bummer. Moving on to the seed vault, you will need 10 Pest Sapper and 10 Dragonflies treasure cards, 25 pink dandelions, 5 braided vines, 50 deep mushrooms, 10 flawless amethysts, and 50 mistwood. Both TCs can be difficult to find if they're not already in the bazaar, which is definitely your easiest option, but they also do drop from a number of different enemies, and I'll link the full list in the description below. The pink dandelions also drop from a number of different enemies, but honestly, I find the easiest place to farm them is in Krakatopia because it feels like every single boss and mob practically drop them like candy, so you shouldn't have too much trouble getting the 25 you need. The 5 braided vines can be tricky too, but drop from a number of enemies, can be found by any pets fortunate enough to have the Myth Scout talent, and are harvested from a number of plants you can garden, including the deadly flytrap, facepalm, goose tree, maelstrom snapdragon, pink and red huckleberries, and the silver trumpet vine. Of these plants, the easiest are probably the deadly flytrap and maelstrom snapdragon because these can both be bought for gold from a Valdi silverpelt in Nordrland and Griselheim, and the maelstrom snapdragon can also be bought alone from barley in the silent market in Chrysalis. Both plants then have a chance to drop a braided vine reagent on Elder Harvest. The deep mushrooms can be bought at the bazaar or easily harvested in early worlds like Wizard City, Krakatopia, and Mushu, and the flawless amethyst can be bought from Yuji Hamada right next to Toshio. Finally, as mentioned earlier, mistwood is also often found at the bazaar or harvested easily in Wizard City, Griselheim, and Mushu. Once you have everything you need, you can craft your seed vault and gain an extra 100 spaces of storage for any seeds you have, which can be really handy if you're dealing with very large gardening plots. As an added bonus, the seed vault is actually tradable, unlike the gear and jewel vaults, so you can also put all your seeds in a seed vault and put the whole thing in your shared bank to quickly move large amounts of seeds between wizards more easily. You know those life wizards out there just cannot help themselves. Finally, for the Jewel Vault, you'll need 1 reinforced crate, 30 pearls, 20 sandstone, 10 mistwood, 25 flawless rubies, 25 reshuffles TC, and 10 fairy TC. A lot of these ingredients are the exact same as the Gear Vault, so refer back to that for the reinforced crate, sandstone, mistwood, and reshuffle and fairy treasure cards. For the 30 pearls, you'll want to check the bazaar, but they can also be harvested in any underwater areas including Crab Alley off of Triton Avenue or all over the world of Celestia. You can also transmute pearls for 10 Black Lotus using a transmutation recipe which can be bought from Avery Templeton and Celestia, and they also drop from a number of enemies and plants, one of them being the Maelstrom Snapdragon, which you may be planting already for the braided vines needed for your seed vault. Finally, they can also be searched for using the pet talent Myth Scout, which can also be used to find the braided vines as well. Otherwise, you just need the flawless rubies, which, like the other jewels, can be bought from Yuji Hamada next to Toshio. Once you have your jewel vault, you can place it in or outside your home to gain an extra 100 storage spaces for any jewels you may want to store. Cause if you're anything like me and you get a very rare jewel drop, instead of actually using it, you just hoard it for all eternity because you don't want to waste it on the wrong pet or gear, but then you just never end up using it at all. Oops. Do know that, like the gear vault, the jewel vault is also non-tradable and can't be placed in the shared bank. Now, officially, those are all the vaults you can craft for free, but I do want to give honorable mention to a very special vault we almost had before the developers ripped it away at the last moment. The treasure card vault. Yes, that's right. We all had greatness at our fingertips, folks, but it was cruelly snatched away from us. All the way back during the spring 2019 update, a treasure card vault concept which could hold 1,000 treasure cards each was considered but ultimately never implemented in the game. Like, they literally had the entire item designed and ready to go before it was scrapped, and it honestly looked pretty cool. So why did they pull the treasure card vault at the last second? Well, according to the May 2019 producer's letter, after working on the Decathlon event, the developers also started to look closer at the treasure card vault system and began to ask themselves why there was a need for so many treasure cards and question if they were giving out too many, if they were not important enough to use, or both, and ended up deciding that treasure cards could be made integral to the Decathlon event to discourage the hoarding that a lot of players were doing. Obviously, this mindset ignored the issue of hoarding treasure cards for other purposes like empowers, which act as a trading currency in-game, or people who like to collect rare cards. So adding Decathlon and not allowing players to have a TC vault hasn't really stopped players from hoarding cards, it's just made us discover more creative ways to do it. We're obviously going to hoard them anyway, so what are your options? First is the tried and true method of simply making a treasure card mule by making a free alternate account, or several, making a bunch of low-level characters in those accounts, and then simply transferring your treasure cards from your main account to your alternate account by clicking on the trade option in the friend tab and transferring over up to 999 treasure cards to each character. For those of you that don't know, you can actually run multiple Wizard101 accounts at the same time, which is how some people quest with multiple characters at once. Simply log into one account and make sure you're all the way logged in and past the startup screen. You can then log into Wizard101 again on another account and have multiple windows for different accounts running at the same time. You may just want to lower the resolution and create smaller windows for each account so you can easily switch between the two on one computer. With this method, you can easily store up to 999 treasure cards per character and can have up to 6 characters for free per alternate account without ever needing to pay for membership, which equals 5,994 extra treasure card storage per account. In addition, you can also store treasure cards in decks themselves by adding them under the treasure card tab in the deck section of your backpack. When you add treasure cards to a deck, you'll see the number in your backpack goes down, effectively storing them in the deck itself. So, using your same free alternate account, you can take your characters and buy the highest level deck with the most treasure card space you can find, and then fill each up with as many treasure cards as possible, which will further add to the total amount of treasure card storage you have. You don't actually need to be able to equip the deck to buy it or store TC in it, so you should go with the highest level deck with the most space you can afford. It's funny because you can also name your decks, and there's literally a treasure cards deck name, so KI had to have known we'd do this. With a free account, you can hold 80 decks per character, with each deck offering more TC storage, so it all adds up very quickly. If you need money to buy all those decks, just have your side character sell some valuable TCs like Empowers, and over time you can build up a TC storage empire. See? We don't need treasure card vaults. We are the treasure card vaults. One more option for treasure card storage that I'd like to mention is more for the collectors and decorators out there, but KI did release a treasure card display recipe, which is available from Kara Runewright during any decathlon events in the arena. The recipe requires fairly basic reagents and isn't too hard to craft, but the display allows you to essentially hang up treasure cards in your house for people to look at, which can be great if you have a particularly rare TC you want to show off. In theory, if you wanted to, you could craft a bunch of these for extra TC storage, but honestly, using the TC character mules I mentioned earlier is a far more efficient use of time and resources. But hey, some of you don't know when to quit, so go nuts! Anyway, those were my best free storage options in Wizard101 for gear, seeds, jewels, and treasure cards, so hopefully you can all now hoard to your heart's content. If you found this video helpful, please consider liking and subscribing, and as always, I hope to see you out there in the spiral, and happy questing!